I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
There were these two very senior men, and they were going out for a drive in their huge car. Yeah? In fact, they were so senior, and they were sitting so low in the seat that they could barely see over the steering wheel or the dashboard. And they get in this big car, and they're driving along, and the passenger, Marvin, notices that they went through a red light. And then he thought, well, that's kind of careless. And then they went through another red light, and then a third red light. And he thought, wow, that's really crazy. And he looks over at Duke, and he says, Duke, you just drove through 3 red lights. Don't you know you could have gotten us killed? And Duke says, oh, am I driving? And that's how a lot of people live their lives. Unless we have an intention, a vision, an idea where we're going in our lives, we're liable to get nowhere or everywhere or run red lights. And I'm telling you that if you're not the driver of your life, I don't want to ride with you. So your vision, your intention, your mission in your life is what drives your life. And unless you are holding that vision, praying with that vision, opening yourself up for the fullest fruition of that vision, you're probably not going to the place that you have the highest possibility of going and being. So today we're talking about a vision for Unity, a vision for Unity Church of Maui, a vision for you, for us in our lives. And we're talking about a vision that pulls us when we know what it is that Spirit wants to be through us. And we may not have the whole picture, but we get a feeling, we have an intuition, we have a sense of what that is. And when we start to embrace that, that vision begins to pull us, and we don't have to push it. In Proverbs 29:18, the author wrote, without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, we as individuals, as a community, as a ministry, we will perish unless we have an idea of where we're going. Gary and I went to a convention, a week ago. We came back a week ago last night, and it was the most powerful convention that I've been to. Unity Convention, Unity's People Convention. It was in Olathe, Kansas, and there were over 300 ministers and leaders from around the world. And it was a fabulous, fabulous conference. You can see up in the right-hand corner, that's the Silent Unity building, where many of us have prayed to. I worked in that building when I was in ministerial school, prayed with people all over the world. The water tower on the left holds 100,000 gallons of water. It's also businesses or offices for people on Unity Village. The building at the bottom of the tower is where I received my ministerial training. It was at that time the education building. And what came out of this conference was shocking, but we knew it was true. And that is that if we continue to do ministry the way that we are doing it, by the year 2030, we are going to age ourselves out. Because if we look around the room and we see kind of the same thing in most Unity churches, most of us are in our 60s and 70s and 80s. So what came out was, unless we do something different, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. We've been doing the same thing in Unity for 100 years, and now we're looking at, unless we do something different, we may not be around in 30 years. So it's time for us to embrace something new, and we're calling on all of us today to embrace that vision. The Unity leadership team doesn't really know where it's going. They don't have that vision, so we are relying on you to help us to bring forth what do we want to be? What does Spirit want to be as you, as us, in the year 2030, which is only 12 years away, and beyond? So, and in the process, we're recognizing that we may have to give up some of our sacred cows in order to do what we're doing differently. So, I'd like to call up Reverend Gary. Help us out here, Gary. Where are we going next?
Boy, you know, this convention was awesome. Another part of it was there were 30 graduates, new Unity ministers, that on our first day had their acknowledgement and credentialing as new Unity leaders. Wow, powerful. And then, there was so much that went on. The beginning of this convention, our chair for Unity Worldwide Ministries gave a talk that literally reeled us in, that capitalized this idea that wouldn't it be wonderful if we could find a way of unity being one. Unity. What a strange idea. That would mean Unity Worldwide Ministries, Unity World Headquarters, IMU, everyone under one banner, operating and serving the world. This was powerful, and it started to stir a movement in me. Well, the next night, the Reverend David Alt, that bottom picture there, David Alt's on the left, and Bishop Carlton Pierce gave a talk. And what they spoke to was, it's time to get present. It's time to recognize that no one else is going to do what we need to do. And it's time we step on the edge. No longer living in the safety of, it's just fine the way it is. Because there's a lot of people in need. And we need to stop waiting for the people in need to come to us. We need to go to them. We need to step into purpose and into being. And probably what's going to happen with that is we're going to have to let go of sacred cows. Old beliefs that hold us back from getting to that point of edge. That's our growing edge. That's our willingness to say, okay, God, you're in charge because I don't know what's next. It stirred every part of my being and awakened me that, boy, I've been living real small. And I'm still wondering, what am I going to do about that? Now, the last day of the conference, they brought in very experienced and successful Unity ministers. John Strickland, Joyce Fisher-Pierce, Richard Bunch, and Howard Caesar. Now, these ministers have touched thousands of lives. And collectively, they have over 100 years experience doing Unity ministry. And they spoke about what they love about ministry. And what ministry dropped them to their knees to learn about themselves. And they shared what we can do today that might work to serve others. And it opened my heart. And it made me so grateful. Because when I started this journey in Unity, I had a deep connection with Myrtle Fillmore, who her very presence in the world began this Unity movement. I know Charles, her husband, is the co-founder, but Unity wouldn't have happened without Myrtle. Now, this is Gary talking, not Unity. But she started Unity because she heard the call, I'm a child of God and I don't inherit illness. And she sat down and she prayed and she transformed her life by healing herself, and then others sat and healed with her. And she's been a constant source of inspiration because she had a vision and a knowing of what is to be. So, would you like to feel some of the energy from the convention?
Yeah.
Let's watch this. And there's so much we can do together. Now, one of the calls that Unity Worldwide Ministries offered at convention is, wouldn't it be an awesome step if we all joined and shared the same vision? And they proposed a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of our shared spiritual awakening. Let's say this together. A world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of our shared spiritual awakening. Well, we might ask, how can we do this? How can we move towards this together? Because we're all going to be one. Then what needs to be done? We're not going to be able to take steps to achieve this by what we know now. So what growing edge do we need to be on to serve the world for this type of spiritual awakening? And so what is ours at Unity Church of Maui is to drop into, what do we want as this church that's part of a larger whole, and how are we going to take steps to this place? Now, I turn to science, the wonderful Albert Einstein, who speaks, logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. And isn't it great that this month, June, is the 12th power of imagination? It's a call to us to identify with the creative process and own that, boy, there's some juices, there's some light, there's some movement within us calling us to something more rather than just the same old thing. Now, that doesn't mean we need to throw out what's working. What's working is great. And then I turned again to Donald Curtis, because his words are so frank and clear. When we are aware of our oneness with God, nothing is impossible to us, no matter what outer appearance may indicate. So he's calling us to not take any direction, not take any step, not grab onto any opportunity until we've come home to the divinity within us and listen to the guiding spirit that is always present and gives us what we need. Yes? Yes. And then this great Unity minister who led Unity in New York City says it this way: Unity is practical Christianity, and it's practical only if it's practiced. If we're not going to do this, then go do something else. If we're going to do it, let's do it. And if we're going to do it, let's do it together, because there's more power in what we can do together. That's why we have spiritual community. That's where we get up in the morning and go, okay, I'll drive to Wailuku, or I'll take an airplane and I'll come to Wailuku and I'll come visit and drop in, because something's happening. Something's quickening us to our future. And again, Elizabeth Sand-Turner, a great Unity writer, says our goal is nothing less than realization of complete oneness with God. This is Christ's mastery. This is our operating instructions. We're here to realize our oneness with God, our oneness with each other, and if we choose, our oneness with unity, or with Catholicism, or with Baha'i. It doesn't matter. It's all God. God's big enough to serve any desire of our heart. Hallelujah. So, back to that vision. Unity Worldwide Ministries, a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of our shared spiritual awakening.
So what does that mean? What does it mean, a world powerfully transformed? What does that look like? To me, a world that's powerfully transformed means that women, men, and children will be considered equal. It means that there's no discrimination based on sex or sexual orientation or color or opinions. It's a world where creativity is encouraged, where freedom and individual thoughts and beliefs are encouraged, where we all can share our truth, where we all can appreciate each other for what we have, what we desire, what we want. It's a world where children are educated, where they can go to school and feel like they're safe, where they are taught how to communicate and how to learn to be powerful beings. Right now, we're not teaching our children how to be powerful. We're not teaching them how to learn, really. We're not teaching them how to think. We need to teach them how to be a part of a world that's accepting and loving and where they can express their truth. Oscar Wilde said, every single human being should be the fulfillment of a prophecy. For every human being should be the realization of some ideal, either in the mind of God or in the mind of man. A world where everyone is encouraged to hold their truth, to live their passion. And Frank said, I feel the suffering of millions. And yet, when I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better. That this cruelty too shall end. That peace and tranquility will return once more. Unity Worldwide's vision, a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of our shared spiritual awakening. Our shared spiritual awakening begins with our own spiritual awakening. To me, what that means is that our spiritual awakening comes as a series of events, emotions, and experiences that we go through and that propels us in life. I imagine that all of us here have experienced that on some level, yes? You've been called forth in some way to experience and express your truth, your spiritual awakening. And I know that it's time that in pursuit of our individual spiritual path, that we become aware, that we take responsibility. I believe that we stop taking the focus off of me, I want, but how can I serve this community? How can this community serve the world? It's time to get rid of our personal desires and wants and lack, and move into a place of being one in the universe and acting from that place. So what does that look like if we express our individual spiritual awakening and move towards a shared spiritual awakening? So to me, it looks like that we are working together as one spiritually transformed consciousness. That we are working together as a community to make a difference in the world, in our Unity community. It means that we will pray and meditate together and make that part of our ongoing practice. That we will work within the larger community to heal. I can see us moving out into our Maui community with processes and workshops that help our community to heal. It might even mean moving beyond our language of our spiritual language, our religious language, into a language that others can understand as transformative. It means that we will make healthier choices and teach others to do the same. Modern research shows that being part of a spiritual community transforms our lives. It transforms people's lives when they are part of a community. So we are here to invite you today to move into our spiritual community with your mind, your body, and your soul. And to make a commitment to make a change in your life and in our life, and in Maui and in the world. Irish priest and writer John Donahue said, "May I live this day compassion of heart, clear in word, gracious in awareness, courageous in thought, and generous in love."
There's a component of this journey that we can recognize that there's some effect of what's happening with the whole. And I did some research on the collective consciousness, and I love what Alex Miles had to say. Collective consciousness is a set of shared beliefs throughout the energy of the whole universe. She continues to say, and has always existed and will continue to exist throughout eternity. It means the collective group of people all have the same inner knowing, and that all of our thoughts, ideas, and feelings exist on a frequency that's accessible to everyone. That's pretty powerful. I don't know if you've had the experience, but I've had friends that we, even over thousands of miles, knew exactly what was going on in our lives. We'd pick up the phone and call right at the same time, either when there was a highest high or a lowest low. That incredible connection. And I think that's what this frequency is. So then I went on and I started to read Albert Einstein and different physicists on this whole idea, and I got kind of immersed in a lot of heady stuff that was a little hard for me to understand, but I found the work of John Wheeler, who's a physicist at Princeton, and he says, experiments in quantum physics, in fact, do show that simply looking at something as tiny as an electron, just focusing our awareness upon what it's doing for even an instant in time, changes its properties while we're watching it. The experiments suggest that the very act of observation is an act of creation. These findings seem to support Wheeler's proposition that we can no longer consider ourselves merely onlookers who have no effect on the world we're observing. And if what we are observing, what we see, affects the world around us, then wouldn't it also be true that what we touch affects that which we touch? What we hear affects the world of what we hear. I experience that in music because the music connects me with something much bigger than myself. So that all of our senses are part of the activity of our spirit of creation. It's how we live on the edge and discern, I wonder what's next. Now, you might pick up that Blaine and I were a little enthused and excited about what happened at convention. It was a beautiful experience. Every year at convention, it is the business meeting for the membership. And the business meeting always has been a trial. For, against, and a parliamentarian hired to function the meeting just to move through whatever anyone had to say. This year's business meeting with the leaders of Center for Spiritual Living, the leaders of IMU, and over 300 Unity leaders went smoothly. The parliamentarian might just have easily just taken a nap, and it ended an hour early. Because we've stepped into a new place. Unity Worldwide Ministries has moved to Unity Village and occupies the educational building where the archives and the library are. So they're already in the same place. Years ago, they were moved away, a separate building. So this is why this call to oneness is so powerful. I found this poem. Let's take a deep breath. This is a lot of energy and feeling. And what I often turn to poetry to find out how to connect with those feelings. Watching the moon at dawn, solitary, mid-sky, I knew myself completely. No part left out. It's beautiful when we stop and connect with what is. Because in the present moment, we have access to all that is. And that's pretty darn powerful. Sri Chamoy accents this truth by saying, when you are right, everything around you is right. For the beautiful flow that is inside your heart has the capacity to spread its fragrance of oneness, light all around you. I love that where I begin to find peace is by looking at the lyrical ideas that bring me home to myself, home to the truth, home to the wisdom that I don't have to do this alone. And I have no idea what it looks like. Unity has no idea what this goal of seeing ourselves in 2030, 12 years from now. But it's within us. So Blaine, how many Unity people does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I don't think any. All they have to do is think about it, and it happens.
I think that's called imagination. Oh. So what we know is this. Right now, we established our mission many years ago, and it's been very useful for us for a long time. We are a thriving spiritual ohana that honors the divinity in all and inspires personal transformation by living unity principles. This afternoon, we're going to come together after a light lunch, and we're going to have imagine our future by utilizing a wonderful tool that's been put forth in the world by Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. And in this process, we're going to look at what are we and what steps might we take to achieve this powerful vision. So I welcome you to come back and enjoy with us this process. It'll start about 12:30 or whenever it starts after we eat. But what a good time to take a moment and drop into meditation.
So I invite you to close your eyes and let's just do a quick meditation because we're a little over in time, and I invite you to just be peaceful and to relax into this moment, into your own potentiality, into that place where spirit is within you. And just to feel, what does it feel like? What will it feel like when you are part of a transforming consciousness? When you are part of a world expressing itself perfectly, a world that is free of fear and doubt, a world filled with love, with peace. And let's take just a moment in the silence to embrace the feeling of love. Becoming aware of your breath. Bringing your awareness back into this moment. And as you open your eyes to behold love within yourself within others, and within the world. And so it is.
Where I live, there are rain.